Okay, I'm gonna just do a little test here. You see, this is where I plan to make some of my videos in this shed. And I just found out that the iPhone, oh hang on now, that the iPhone 8 is a really good camera to film with. And I'm just testing the light, see what it's like. Oh, I just woke up and I made breakfast for the kids this Sunday morning. And last night I was googling how to make like vlogs and videos. There's a lot to learn, but still I think that the industry had made it quite easy to make videos. And I was just thinking that I need to talk every day to the camera. And just this morning I had an idea that follows the tritus model, like a new interpretation of it. And really I should take time to explain it. Perhaps I could just try to explain it without having any whiteboards or anything in this fantastic studio that's full of isolering. What do you call this? I mean, recently I just built a house, and this is the stuff they put in the walls, you know, to keep the heat out and the cold out, the heat in and the cold out, I suppose. And because I live in Sweden, sometimes it gets cold. It's like in the winter, it gets sometimes really cold. Anyhow, this idea, I just explained it really fast. I don't have time to go into it a lot, but I was asked a question of a good friend of mine: what is right and what is wrong? What do you think about right and wrong? So this is a bit of a tricky question because things can be right and wrong at the same time. To explain this, I usually, let's see if I have something. Yeah, look at this. Oh no. Whatever. Okay, let's look at this. Let's suppose that this is a knife. And the example that I usually use is that a kitchen knife is a kitchen knife. Let's think this is a kitchen knife. Okay, so if you have a kitchen knife at home, is that a good thing or a bad thing? The thing is that a knife can be good and bad at the same time, depending on how you use it, of course. But it's the concept of, so you can cook food with it to your friends and your family, and then you use it for something good. But you can also stab someone, and that's terrible. I mean, you could kill people with it, and that's terrible. But then you can kill animals, and people think that's okay, and some think it's not okay. So it's a complicated thing, what is right and what is wrong. And when I've been thinking about it, it comes down to three different aspects. Again, this follows the tritus model. Maybe I should have drawn it somehow, but there's a top one and a middle one and a bottom one. And the bottom one would be the physical one that explains what's right and wrong. And that's the definitions that you use when you go to court. Like, where were you this day? Did you hold the gun, or did you sign this paper, you know? These kind of really down-to-earth measurable things would be fitted here. So those are the ones that you use to prove what's right and wrong. Now, as a culture, you take all these actions and you draw a line. For instance, traffic rules is a good one to use. They draw a line that if you go above 110 kilometers an hour, that's about 70 on the freeway, motorway, highway, big roads with a car. If you go above a certain speed limit, they have a definition that says this is right and this is wrong. So it's wrong to go above the limit, and it's very measurable and it's easy to look after, like to take in consideration. So then you put a set of rules above certain actions that becomes the culture. So you have a culture that says if you drive too fast, it's dangerous. And sometimes people adapt to the culture and they become the culture. So if they see a car speeding, they get really mad and angry, like, oh, you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. But there's another aspect to this, and that would be the intention of the action, which is, in reality, above the measurable action. So if we take the top idea here, that would be the difference between intention, and intention can span between egoism and the opposite. That would be oneness or love, or like like doing good. So this is good and bad, and this is the real sense of good and bad. Would be the top crowning idea of good and bad is found in the intention of why you do things. So if we go back to the example of the kitchen knife, I could basically stab someone, and that would be of a good intention because he was threatening my kids. Or it can be, it's more complex than just the action itself, because there's a context to it, and the crowning context would be the intention of why you do things. But here is another problem then, because the intention can be hidden. So a man has the intention hidden within him, and he can lie. So I can do an action that's wrong, but I refer to my intention that I was a good intention. So then people think that it's right, but my intention was the real problem. So the concept of what is right and wrong would fit into these three categories, and if you make a balance between them, they would make good things. So the bottom one would be the action itself, that's definable, and then you have a set of rules that can handle this definition that we all collectively in a culture have come up with, and then you sort of make a nation, or like Sweden has this collective set of laws that how to handle the actions. But then we have to take and consider the third element, which would be the intention of the ones that do in the actions. And if we look at this triple system, maybe I should have drawn this, or I don't know, prepared a bit more, but I was thinking about this just as I woke up. But this follows the tritus models where, again, we would have the top one as the most abstract, hardest one to get to, the one that you feel in your gut stomach is like the abstract part of life. And then the second one would be the ones that I've written in paper, the ones that we have in our rational heads, that we have created, our minds. And the third one would be the action itself. And then you would have a reference between right and wrong in the measurable, right and wrong in the cultural, and right and wrong in the, you could say, eternal, I don't know, the intention, like the most abstract part where your heart is. So the thing is this, that if we take this system, the top one is always in authority over the other ones, because this is where it starts from. So if your intention is good, you can overrule the culture and the action. But then what it happens is that when you have a culture that defines certain actions as right and wrong, the culture can be so dominant and strong in its power. So even if you do the right things, if they've defined a thing that is wrong, but you do it, you break the thing that's wrong, so you do what's right, but the culture says it's wrong, the culture can put you into prison or whatever, and have the system run on its own. But then the system of the ruling, like the above the culture, which would be the third element of the treatise, that would be the truth, or like the real truth. And people refer to it as God, but I mean, God today is a thing that you can't talk about without having people getting offended or whatever. So we don't say God, we just say that it exists, a third element to the system of right and wrong, and the third one is really the crowning and the real truth, but the culture can overrule it. So if the best thing would be if you would have rulers of a country who set the rules, who have a connection to their intention and to their character, so they are filled with their intention is love and unity, and not egoism. And if you have people that have transcended and experienced oneness and know what it's like, you have sort of a mystic.